I want you to get a clear idea of why there's so much attention in having a lot of these international events in the country. So number one, it's about bringing the spotlight in our country that's rapidly transforming. It's very important that we bring that spotlight to the country. We want people from around the world to come and experience what Guyana has to offer. And then it also brings and generates numerous economic activities once we host these events. A lot of these costs don't come up on a piece of paper. They're absorbed costs, but the benefits multiply throughout the economy. And importantly, and I think this is something that many times when we discuss it, we miss this part of the discussion, which is the infusion of energy, excitement, talent, new ways of practicing and showing new skills, not just to the persons who are competing, but also to the persons who are attending. So you get, when you're traveling as an athlete, when you're traveling, you go and compete against persons who are just as good as or maybe even better than you. You get an opportunity to experience what they're good at, and you get to see how you can, make certain changes to your technique and how to improve that. But for the persons who are a tier or several tiers below, they don't get to experience that. Now, by virtue of their interest, they're attending these events, they get to see persons who might be better than our athletes. They get to see what they're doing, and then it infuses their techniques and their way of doing their sport into the younger generation, that budding generation. So it injects and ignites a new way of preparing and developing their talent. We also, what's important too, I wanted to touch on this as well. When we host events here, we do the events that we believe that is within our budget to do, that we don't have to scale on our infrastructure investment that's beyond our capabilities, so that we don't hang our hats where our hands can reach. And this is important because there are countries which declined. They may have expressed an interest to host and then declined even after they had made that commitment to host. For example, the Commonwealth Games were supposed to be held in Australia. They then changed their mind. They said it's too expensive for them to host, and they declined to do it because of their economic situation. Similarly, Canada was expressing its own interest in hosting Commonwealth Games as an alternative. They could not. They said that they weren't going to anymore. Now it's going to be in Scotland in 2026. There were other countries, for example, where right here in the Caribbean, for the bodybuilding and the cycling, there were countries, and squash too, that countries had made a commitment on hosting these tournaments, and then they backed out at the end because it was no longer sensible for them to do it, or they just didn't want to make the investment. We don't make huge investments to host tournaments. We sit down and we work with the National Sports Commission and the ministry. We sit down and we work with the various federations, and we say, okay, well, show us your budget. What are some of the things that we can absorb as government? We can absorb. So, for example, you need logistics. We have some assets that are sitting down in the ministry to move players around. So instead of paying for that, the ministry has a driver, we pay for fuel already, we have the vehicle, we will be able to move that around. So that already is an item that we can remove. The security part of it that they would include, that's something that the police force would absorb. So we don't make huge investments to host, but at the same time, we work with the various agencies, both public as well as private, so that we can successfully host these tournaments. And all of which were successfully held.